Welcome everyone back to Weekly Weather Updates, and this afternoon we'll have a look at the latest for Major Hurricane Ida, which is soon to be making landfall near the New Orleans area over the next few hours. Could be a very devastating storm. At the moment it is Category 4 hurricane strength, so it has 130, 140 mile an hour winds and is still deepening as we speak, so there's potential for it to get a little bit deeper and with some stronger winds, and potentially very slim chance it could become a Category 5 hurricane with some devastating impacts. We also have Hurricane Nora, which is just to the west, the other side of Mexico, which is a Category 1 hurricane, and it's heading up the coast, not really making landfall anywhere, but just staying a little bit offshore, and it could provide some heavy rain and some winds to these areas. You can see Hurricane Nora is a little bit less organised, but you can see the very organised right here, Hurricane Ida, which is going to be packing a punch over the next couple of days. If we do zoom in into Major Hurricane Ida, this is the latest for the cloud tops, as we haven't got visible imagery at the moment, as it is of course dark local time, but you can see it's got a very visible eye heading inland at the moment. Got a lot of outer bands with some big thunderstorms. You can see by those yellow dots, those are lightning strikes, and those are spreading inland right now through Mississippi, Louisiana, and even parts of Florida, maybe Alabama and Texas may get some heavy rain and some storms as well, but there could be some very, very dangerous conditions from this. It could be compared to Hurricane Katrina in terms of its track. It does look like it might move through a little bit faster than Hurricane Katrina, and at the moment its storm surge doesn't look like it's going to be quite as high, but still it will have some devastating impacts, and I hope all the precautions are being made at the moment. If we do have a look at the infrared data, which gives us a very good idea of the convection taking place, you can see at the moment around that centre there is deep convection, and again these colours show you the cloud tops where we've got the whites and the blacks. That's very high cloud tops showing deep convection within the eye wall. Very dangerous conditions going on. And if we do zoom in further into Major Hurricane Ida, you can see we do even have some strong convection on the outer bands as well, fueling the storm, fueling the hurricane, and these have got some isolated thunderstorms on the outside as well. But yeah, you can see the eye wall is starting to make impact on the coastline, and it should move inland over the next sort of 12 hours or so. Will decrease in strength, of course, as it makes landfall, but it has still got a good few hours before the centre of the storm makes landfall, and that means it's got another good few hours of strengthening to go, and we of course could see some very devastating impacts from this storm. If we do have a look at the live radar, now at the moment it is a little bit too far offshore to get detailed radar on it, but you can see we do have some radar imagery. You can see the outer bands, big thick thunderstorms starting to make impact across the coastal areas of Mississippi, Alabama, even parts of Florida, into Louisiana as well. You can see that the main storm though is still offshore, and you can see around its eye wall very intense rain and storms and some very strong winds as well with this as it heads slowly north westwards before it makes landfall in and around the New Orleans area, and again big storm surge, very strong winds and some very heavy rain with this storm. So we do have a look at the latest from the National Hurricane Centre. You see it's quite an active picture out in the Atlantic at the moment. We've got two tropical depressions, 11 and 10, and they are expected to become tropical storms over the next few days, but they are going to mainly stay out in the Atlantic, not really impacting any land masses. We do have a disturbance that's got low chance of formation just off the coast of the northeast, so we have to keep an eye on that. And of course we do have Major Hurricane Ida. In the East Pacific we also do have Hurricane Nora as well, which is skirting the west coast of Mexico, and again we'll have to keep an eye on that, see when that does make landfall. So if we do have a look at a more detailed image of Hurricane Ida, you can see at the moment major hurricane, widespread hurricane warnings. Then when it makes landfall, still will be a hurricane. It does take some time for it to decrease in strength. As it makes landfall, then slowly will decrease to a storm, and then finally a depression heading up towards the east coast. We did look in our yesterday in our UK forecast that Hurricane Ida was going to be heading up towards the jet stream and could start to impact the UK, bringing up some very hot air. So we'll have to keep an eye on that on its longer term track as well towards next weekend. But you can see at the moment, tropical storm winds are starting to make landfall. Still, the hurricane winds, though, they're very strong. 100, 120, 130, 40 mile an hour winds are still offshore, and we have to keep an eye on how that does develop. If we have a look at the wind history, which gives us an idea, you can see the hurricane strength winds have been expanding over the last couple of days, and it will continue to expand before it makes landfall. If we do have a look at the wind speed probabilities, you can see widely 90+% chance of tropical storm winds, and if we do have a look at hurricane storm wind strength winds, again a 90% chance we see the hurricane winds even many miles inland after it makes landfall. If we do have a look at the peak surge, you can see it has been upgraded since our last update on Friday. Now looking like potential for 12 to 16 feet of storm surge. Now Hurricane Katrina saw 20, 30 feet of storm surge, so it's not to that extent, but it is very, very high storm surge, 12 to 16 feet, and widely sort of 6 to 9, 8 to 12, sort of spreading out from the centre. A wide area of coastline could be impacted by storm surge. Pretty much 4 states, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana, could be seeing a significant storm surge. And there's a lot of low-lying land around there. We could be seeing some issues, some significant issues, but we do see the highest storm surge. So hopefully everyone has evacuated from the coastline, and if we do see these significant storm surges which are forecasted, it doesn't impact, it doesn't take too many human lives, or doesn't create too much damage. If we have a look at the US rainfall potential, you can see towards the New Orleans area, 15 plus inches is highly likely now, and widely 4, 6, 10 inches around the area, and then heading up even towards the northeast, where it will probably gain some more moisture as it heads further inland, as it draws up some more air from the south. It could be becoming, even though the winds will die down, become still quite a large rainfall event, particularly 6, 10 inches of rain for some areas in the northeast of the United States. But you can see it's going to be a big event, even to areas not directly impacted by the major hurricane landfall. It's still going to be bringing a lot of heavy rain and strong winds, even many miles inland. If you have a look at the flash flooding potential, you can see there is a high chance of flash flooding over the next few days. In the New Orleans area, generally down into Louisiana and Mississippi, a high chance of flash flooding. Moderate for quite a large area, even many areas quite far inland, as the rain is going to be keeping up. It's going to have very heavy rain, and you can see a wide slight warning and a very wide marginal warning, well, covering many states in America, as there's going to be a lot of thunderstorms on its outer bands, and it's dragging up a lot of hot air and moisture. So even if you're not directly impacted by the centre of the depression, by the time it's this far inland, there still could be a lot of heavy showers and thunderstorms around, potentially giving flash flooding risks. If we have a look at tornado potential, it doesn't look like there is any major tornado potential at this stage. Just a general marginal risk and potentially an enhanced risks, but for other systems. So nothing too much in terms of tornado potential with this hurricane. If we finally do have a look at Hurricane Nora, just have a look at what is happening with that in terms of its track. You can see it's just skirting along the coastline, and it will slowly degrade as some of the storm does head inland, and there is a hurricane warning quite widely across Mexico, and it could make landfall over the next few days before heading out into the sea again, before making landfall once again as a tropical storm. So we'll have to keep an eye on what happens with this, but at the moment it doesn't look like it's going to be too major a storm, just potentially some heavy rain and some strong winds at times. It does look like it's moving through quite slowly, so again, rainfall is probably the biggest issue with this, as it is a strong tropical storm, if not weak, a Category 1 hurricane. So still could be some impacts with this, but it really is Hurricane Ida that we really have to keep an eye on over the next few days, and I really pray that everyone who is in its track has heeded the warnings and is making the precautionary steps to make sure you're safe. But yeah, it can be some devastating impacts from this major hurricane out in the Gulf of Mexico, and I do pray everyone is going to stay safe. One thing we do need to watch for all viewers in the UK is what's going to happen in the longer term with this. Because as you saw by the rainfall totals, it's going to become a very large system, probably pretty disorganised in terms of, well, compared to what it's like now with a defined eye. It's going to probably become a bit more disorganised. When that does happen, we'll have to keep an eye on what happens with the general low pressure system. As we saw in my video yesterday, it could really wriggle the jet stream and bring up some hotter air from the south for a time, or it could turn us very stormy at the same time, and we'll have to keep an eye on that. And I'll probably be looking at that in more detail for my video update on the UK prospects later this afternoon, so do stay tuned for that. But anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you stay safe out there, and I'll see you again for another video soon.